Hello and welcome to Awakening, the blog. Today I would like to wrap up the story of Not All That Shines is Gold. And it's actually been a bit of a challenge for me to share this story. Though it happened more so 2 decades ago. And as much as I thought I was able to overcome it, reminiscing the story and some of the experiences brings up a lot of heavy energy. But I believe it's been important to share because they're still out there, what I now can call openly false prophets. And we could easily fall into the hands of these charismatic beings that actually what they seek is power through spiritual needs, people with spiritual needs. And though there's a lot of lessons, obviously, and there's a lot of learning we can go through situations like that. When I was in the meditation this morning with the group and we were considering some of these issues, a clear picture of the Dalai Lama came to my mind. He doesn't preach that he's a master, spiritual master. He's a very humble being with amazing grace and such huge knowledge, wisdom. Yet he's very humble. I thought of Krishnamurti as well, and how much wisdom he had and he gave to the world through his pores. And he was saying, no, don't regard me as a master, as a teacher. You need to discover that in yourself. And so there's a lot of mean people out there. People that are after power. They have a lot of spiritual arrogance and live in spiritual materialism. They could teach, definitely, they could teach. Yet, my sense of the damage it's caused, learning that way, it's probably higher than any damage that could be done by learning through real, amazing, profound, full of integrity teachers. As I believe, like teachers with integrity can also trick us because we need to go beyond our limitations. I think I've condensed the best I can. I have not told everything because I maybe don't want to remember every little detail about all that happened. We had some good moments, but the main energy, now that I can compare and contrast, as I've shared the twin flame story, and I've been able to make some sort of contrast in this situation now that I'm sharing this other one, and this possibility has come up. I share that I suffered a lot with my twin flame, but everything was about true love. Everything. My own suffering was like opening me to understand what true love was, what unconditional love is. But in the other case, he tricked me into falling in love with him and that we were soulmates and that we were going to have life together because that was the only way he could pin me down. But it was never about love. Never ever was there any love involved, neither in the teachings nor in the way he rapped me and the way he rapped everybody else. I know a bit about how a couple of them think, but most of them are very little hesitant, maybe because of this feeling of bringing up, especially I would think, one thing that hurts the most is, how did I fall into this? And the need to forgive oneself, and obviously forgive him too, but forgive oneself for having fall into such ignorant trap. Yet, as I say, it's what we do with everything that happens to us that becomes our teacher or not. I did learn a lot of things. I did learn some good lessons with him. And then I started thinking why integrity is so valuable, why integrity means so much to us as humans. And I realized that integrity is very significant because it's aligned with the highest spiritual values. And we have the seed for that in ourselves. Therefore, we can discern a little, and maybe for all of us, especially the guys that were closest to him, when he would lie so much about different things, and then he would say, oh, I had to do this because of blah, 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 because it was to enlighten you in the path or whatever. At the end, they doubted, so that, they had this call, I'm sure. I mean, I'm speculating based on what I've talked to them and based on my own experience. There's a point when we question ourselves and says, I mean, is this really right to lie so much, to be involved with evil people maybe, and do things like, oh, this is something so cool. There was a time where he suggested that we all had motorcycles, and I loved, because I have done motorcycles before, so I didn't hesitate. I wanted a motorcycle as well, so I bought one, and everybody had one, and the girls, I think one of the girl bought another bike, and suddenly out of his garage the motorcycle disappeared with no trace of anything, like no trace of breaking through the doors and robbing. It disappeared, and everybody, oh my God, somebody robbed the motorcycle, how sad, and the motorcycle was gone. Then it happened in his home in another place, that another motorcycle was robbed, and there was no trace of robbery. And oh my God, what's going there? Why your motorcycle's been robbed? We don't know exactly. I was not witness of what happened, but I can say, because I'll tell you what happened with my motorcycle. I loved my motorcycle. It was a Honda 600 XR, and I had another one, which was a BMW. So since I had two, and then there was a moment where they advertised and they marketed that the teacher was going through some economical problems and blah 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 blah, and that he didn't have a motorcycle, that his motorcycle had to be sold or something to pay some debt. Please, I beg a little bit of compassion for me at this moment for what I'm going to tell you. I gave him my motorcycle. I told him, I have two. Please, you can use my motorcycle, because I thought he was going to really use the motorcycle. He was going to be part of the motorcycle groups with the motorcycle stuff. So, he was so happy at first. Your energy in this motorcycle means so much to me. And, oh, God. Couple of weeks after this, the motorcycle vanished. It's like, what happened with the motorcycle? I think a month or two after that, I said, I don't see you using the motorcycle anymore. What happened to it? And it says, oh, well. And I said, oh, they robbed the motorcycle. He says, well, yes, they robbed the motorcycle. It was like, I think you can have a clear picture that those motorcycles were not robbed by strangers. He sold them. At least I can say about my motorcycle. About the others, I speculate that's probably what happened as well. And so I imagine that the students the disciples at a certain moment, they had to question themselves enough to say, something's not right. Something doesn't match here between how he uses all those lies and all those hidden things and put them under the spiritual lesson. And everybody, oh yes, the master must have a higher purpose. Because as I told you, it was amazing, simply amazing, how they consider he was the teacher of teachers, that he was sent by divine grace as the right hand of God. Really, really, I tell you, that's how they revered him. I didn't get to that point, but I did fall into the master trap, enchantment. And I believe that part of this feeling that I've had is because I need to forgive myself for having fallen into that I could have known better. But when we have some need, and I'm sure all of us that were the disciples had this very strong spiritual desire, spiritual need to grow, to know who we were. I mean, there was so much arrogance involved in this that the closest disciples, the inner circle, they had a huge spiritual ego. And they are really wonderful people, let me tell you. The fact that they were able to leave, and I'm sure they had all this desire for spiritual search, spiritual quest, very clear in their hearts. They are amazing people, I can say. They are people like most of us in this spiritual path that desire to know who we were. But there was a lot of ego cultivation, spiritual arrogance, cultivated by him to the disciples and to all of us. I mean, the closest ones. That's not, I believe, real spirituality. The path of spirituality is based on humble grace, understanding that we are a drop of the divine and that we are here to wake up. And so, I hope that by sharing this, which it's the main purpose of sharing this experience, is that you don't fall into such trap. I think nowadays, I mean maybe 20 years ago, when spirituality was a sort of like a fashion thing, and it still is, but in a different level, so many spiritual teachers, false prophets appeared, and all the seekers were very eager to find a hand. It was easy to fall. Now I think we've become conscious, a little more conscious in terms of our collective unconscious or collective consciousness regarding this thing. And it's not, I would say, not as easy to fall, but it can happen. It can happen. So just be aware of who you choose to revere or adopt as a spiritual teacher, and be always in touch with yourself. And when you feel something's not right, listen to it. Really listen to it. As I said, why are we inclining so naturally to integrity? Is because that is what's natural at our spiritual level. The values that we can cultivate under the umbrella or the label of integrity, it has to do with what's natural for us in terms of spiritual values. And I really hope that we as humanity can keep on walking in this direction of waking up, but because we really, really need it. we need to create a new human, and that new human has to be based on higher values. So thank you again for being part of this story, another story in my life with all these mystical and strange things. Listen to your dreams, and if you feel that you don't dream, it's not true. It's just that you don't know how to pay attention to the dreams. Just make sure that when you have a dream, don't move, so you can recall it and make it a little more conscious, and then you can start discerning, because through dream is how I was able to start really knowing who he was. And obviously I had some help from these beings from the other side that came and helped me to keep on in the right track. And one last thing that I would like to say about this, though my experience has been with the spiritual teacher, and this has been very difficult at the spiritual level. These things can happen at a personal level in relationships, where you can fall in the enchantment of some charismatic person who is not transparent, not truthful or sincere, and it shows all that needs to be shown, so you can fall into the trap. And then you fall for years into a trap with this person, and then you start realizing that something doesn't fit. So at the personal level, these things can also happen in relationships. And it's as difficult to let go of that as it is to let go of the other thing. And I think the main thing that we can do to purify and to clean ourselves from that is forgiveness. Forgiveness mainly to ourselves. We need to learn to forgive to ourselves, because forgiving others is easier sometimes than forgiving oneself. We are here on a path of learning, and we're going to have some major mistakes, and it's part of the journey. And forgiving is real hard forgiveness, as I once said, is higher than personal love. I think that forgiveness is, from a different perspective, learning to forgive really from the heart is a step to go closer to higher love or unconditional love. So let's forgive ourselves. Let's forgive the people around us that has caused us some damage. We can carry resentment, and that shows that we have not forgiven. And we can still work on that. It can take a while to work on that, but it's worthwhile working on forgiveness, because it makes us align with a better part of who we are, or who we can be, actually. So again, thank you. I'll be sharing more things to contemplate and to work with in this spiritual quest, which is so vast. And we'll be in contact. Thank you so much, and please leave your comments or questions directly, preferably in the blog. That's why I've disabled the comments in the YouTube video, so you can access the blog and participate there, because in this way it's going to be more interesting for the people that come into the blog and read the experiences and the questions and answers that can be formulated there. Okay? Thank you. Until the next journey. Bye.